I'm Jonah Comstock, editor-in-chief at PharmaForum. I'm here at CAR-TCR in Boston with Becky Cap, Senior Vice President for Business Development and Advanced Therapies at Biobridge Global. Thanks for joining me, Becky.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and about Biobridge.
So Biobridge Global was founded 50 years ago as a blood bank serving the South Texas region. And we've grown over the years to expand our services to include a comprehensive testing organization and most recently a biomanufacturing group. So we have all the starting materials, the process development and manufacturing, and the testing for donor qualification and finished product testing in the advanced therapy space. It's really exciting.
So that allows you to kind of come in and provide some of the very in-demand raw materials that these cell therapy companies need.
Exactly.
So,
And we know what it takes to get them into a manufacturing suite.
So when you come to a show like this, what are you looking for? What are you looking to hear about and learn about, and what kind of connections are you looking to make?
Well, that's actually part of the challenge, right? Because there's so much that we're involved in. I can go into any session and learn something new. Our focus right now is on starting materials and making sure that people understand the quality around those, the donor qualification, how those resources become available, and how they can be used in a wide array of applications. And we have an analytics group that's really focused on helping us help our customers.
What is important about donor quality? What are some of the things you find people don't always know about what they should be looking for, or what kind of questions they should be asking?
Actually, the biggest challenge there is when people think they need to throw the kitchen sink at the donor qualification panel, and they get very restrictive on the kinds of things that they think matter, and that narrows their donor pool very tightly. So, and it becomes very expensive to find those donors. So it's more important to spend some time up front figuring out what actually matters. If you begin with the end in mind, what actually matters in your donor material when you get to your finished product.
So since you're working with donors, I assume you're pretty much aligned with the allogeneic side of the business as opposed to the autologous.
Autologous, yeah.
Autologous, thank you. But one thing I've been hearing at the show is that that's a movement that's happening in this space, right?
Yeah.
Because there's more scalability and reliability with allo. There's an effort to see if more can be done with it and if it can be brought up to sort of the level. What's your kind of read on that? Do you see increasing interest? People are becoming more interested in that side?
So what's really fun and very exciting about the space right now is the autologous space is maturing. And although our healthy donor material is appropriate for the allogeneic market, we are really excited to see that starting to grow. People are taking a very focused interest in those materials. But we're also finding ways to leverage our infrastructure in the community to help support autologous therapies. So we have a network of 130 hospitals that we support with blood products. We can now help support those hospitals with autologous therapies, with allogeneic therapies. We can do collections on patients in the hospital, in our suites, or eventually on mobile collection units. It's a concept in blood banking that's very it's longstanding, and we are able to apply that to the cell therapy space and help overcome one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing, which is getting therapy closer to the patients, not just in the academic medical centers or the FACT-accredited transplant centers, but finding ways to extend that into the community.
Yeah, that's so important, and something I've heard a lot already in just a couple of days of the show is the importance of that kind of scalability and broad access, right?
Right.
These therapies. So
access is the key.
Rural areas, people. So what are some of the other trends you're seeing? Things you're curious about or excited about?
Yeah. So two things. One, that big umbrella of patient access. That's something that we are so focused on, and you couple that with decentralized manufacturing. whether you're thinking about point of care, or regional, or just um, taking apart the manufacturing process and figuring out which components you can put in local facilities. All of those things are going to decrease the burden of care that's on the hospitals right now
Right.
and make that more accessible. I think that's a fantastic um, model. We've got to pursue it. We've got to think about things differently, and that leads to the other idea and the other concept that I'm struggling with, and I think a lot of us are. As these scientific and technical innovations have happened, you're seeing the pace of those discoveries accelerate. It it took in the early 20th century, it was a 50-year cycle before the knowledge base on medicine would double. Now we're down to like a 5-year,
Wow.
2-year cycle. Integrating all of that information and learning how to think about everything differently, how, our models of care, our assumptions about what makes a good therapeutic program. Um, we have to find a way to integrate all of that knowledge. And I don't know how much of that is AI, machine learning, which everybody seems to want to jump on, or if it's just taking the time to question our basic assumptions.
Different ways to think about
Different ways to,
training, education, things like that.
yeah, and care delivery.
Right, and of course, in cell therapy, that's so huge. Is the we're expecting this huge influx of new therapies as they get approved over
Hmm.
the next 2 or 3 years. Can all of the infrastructure keep up? Can we
Right.
treat that many patients? Can we pay for those therapies, and can insurers pay for them? So, I mean, what do you see as kind of the biggest challenges around that? In terms of like keeping up with this innovation, and what do you see as some of the promising possible solutions?
So I'm actually looking at some of the financials and the epidemiology right now. And if CAR-T is $1 billion per quarter industry right now, which Dr. Levine referred to in his talk, that means that we're rapidly running out of capacity in our academic fact accredited medical centers. You look at the numbers of patients they can treat per month. We're at a crisis point by the end of the year
Wow.
in terms of getting more patients in. So we have to figure out how to get that into the community. It comes back to how are we going to think about this differently? Now, I work for a traditional blood center that has rethought its identity, but they have a lot of that infrastructure. There's a network of them around the country. How can we leverage that? How can we leverage home care and mobile delivery systems? City of Hope has a fantastic model where they have treatment available, they have residential space available for patients and their families at the hospital. That makes it easier, but how can we extend that
Yeah.
throughout the regions and communities?
It's one thing that I keep hearing in these interviews is this notion of not reinventing the wheel. If the
Right,
challenges that we face,
right,
we can't each try to solve them individually. And I would say also we can't ignore things like uh, blood banks where there's infrastructure there that could be utilized, right?
right, right. Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel, just take the wheel and use it differently.
Well, it's really fascinating conversation, Becky. Anything else that we haven't talked about that you find you're interested in or excited about,
Oh,
or that you want to expound on?
yeah. I think just the number of therapies that are coming and how they are tackling disease. We heard about beta thalassemia patients that are transfusion independent. I talked to some people about the sickle cell product that's coming out, and there's huge promise there in terms of how patients are going to be able to live. And those things fundamentally change what we do in healthcare, not just for changing the patient outcomes, but change the demand on the infrastructure that we've already set up. So again, how can we redirect that
Right.
capacity and that infrastructure? It's really a fascinating time to be in clinical medicine, in cell therapy.
And
So,
it's not just one paradigm shift, right?
right.
There are more coming down the road, and we don't even know how
And
this space is going to evolve.
they're all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So really, really exciting, daunting times, but more exciting than not.
Super interesting to be at a meeting like
Yeah,
this, I have to
it
say.
is.
I mean, I was at ASCO earlier this year, and I thought that was very exciting too, because of all the
Mm-hmm.
things that are happening in cancer.
Yeah.
In many ways, this conference is just the most exciting of the things from ASCO all together in
All
one small
totally.
space. So really interesting. Really
Yeah.
great to chat with you, and thanks so much for taking the time, Becky.
Likewise. Thank you.